believing their eyes, that weren't believing their ears, because maybe you've seen a police officer be tried and to be convicted basically by the words of his fellow police officers, and then see a jury go in and so quickly move against a police officer instead of doing what they've done in the past throughout the history of this country, and that is giving the benefit of the doubt to a police officer every time. That did not happen yesterday. And Joyce, if this happens regularly, if you've seen this happen many times in Alabama and Minnesota, please let me know, because I haven't seen it. Yesterday, I was stunned by how quickly the jury came back in.
It's hard to have actually a national profile of what these prosecutions look like because police aren't required to report numbers, Joe, which makes it tough to study. But there's one lone professor at Bowling Green University who collects data on excessive force prosecutions, and he estimates that there have been about 73 convictions over the course of 16 years. So when you think about it, that's not just for homicides, that's for all sorts of excessive force cases. That means very few police officers are being brought to accountability. In my mind, that's what yesterday does. That vision of a police officer being led from a courtroom in handcuffs sends a strong deterrence message. And so yesterday, the verdict was significant on many levels. Verdicts of guilt are always significant for families and victims because they represent, if not full justice, then at least accountability. But here we also see this beginning of deterrence that can impact the conduct of future police officers. And what we've seen just in the last week indicates that that's sorely needed. The last thing that I'll say is this. I heard people suggesting last night, some of, as you say, the pundits, suggesting that this jury was influenced by the fear that the country would break out in riots if they didn't return a verdict of guilt. And I reject that notion. This jury took an oath, told the judge that they could follow it repeatedly, and they were sequestered during their deliberations. And what I'm forced to think about is all of the juries in police cases who I spoke with after they hung or after they rendered acquittals, where jurors, as you said, gave police the benefit of the doubt. They said, we didn't want to ruin the life of a police officer. I think what the Black Lives Matter protests last summer did, I think what the influx of information into the national conscience about the widespread police misconduct that we see did, was it let this jury decide this case based solely on the evidence and the law without some sort of a bias that said that police were above the law. Now we live in a community where we can possibly have justice for everyone going forward if future juries will act this way as well.